You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
The Bat Family or Task Force X, Metropolis invaded by Brainiac or Gotham City without Batman, live service looter shooter or simplified Arkham Knight with RPG elements, Rocksteady or Warner Brothers Montreal, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League or Gotham Knights.
I don't care!
Yep, I'm doing another video with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Stop it. Get some help.
And seeing as both Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights released two middling reviews to say the least, I thought I'd do another comparison on which one is better. I mean, some of you seem to really enjoy my Resident Evil 4 vs Dead Space or Tekken vs Mortal Kombat. So why not do another one? Suicide Squad dropped and we obviously know my thoughts on that, but how does Suicide Squad compare to Gotham Knights? Rocksteady, the team behind the Arkham Trilogy's latest title, now set in Metropolis, compared to Warner Brothers Montreal, the developers behind the prequel Arkham Origins, and their stand-alone game outside of the Arkham Universe in Gotham Knights. Now normally, or at least previously with my comparison videos, are generally over two similar games that release relatively close to each other. However, Suicide Squad released in 2024, where Gotham Knights released in October of 2022, but it's still a question worth asking. For this video too, I'll be avoiding major spoilers, but I will make some mention to general story moments without going into specifics. But I'll be breaking down which game has the better story, gameplay, world, graphics, characters, and shelf life. But before that, a quick moment to shout out a cool shop that I personally rate called Quokka Mousepads. They are an Australian-based store that make custom mousepads where you can literally use any design you want, or you can pick a pretty cool existing style, such as the streets every Australian grew up on, a nostalgia sketch pad from, when you used to go to school and draw all over your sketch pads, Aussie ice cream icons, and loads more. For those two, for you trading card fans out there, Quokka Mousepads also makes custom playmats for games like, say, Magic the Gathering, where you can choose a pre-existing design or have a custom design, and the step-by-step turns and where to place your lands and your graveyards for Magic is pretty damn cool. Now, they're currently celebrating their second birthday, and to celebrate, they're giving away 500 Australian dollar dues to someone who orders in March. So if you're wanting a custom mousepad for your desk or a playmat for Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh or any other trading card game, head over to Quokka Mousepads and the link is in the description below. But let's take a look at these two similar-ish games with a brief history. Suicide Squad obviously was developed by Rocksteady, the developers who gave us the Arkham Trilogy before that. Suicide Squad as well obviously released earlier this year and continues to play in the world of the Arkham series before it, where now we live in a world where Batman has returned and has joined the Justice League, but Brainiac has invaded Metropolis, the Justice League are now under his control, and the Suicide Squad are sent in to kill the Justice League.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Gotham Knights on the other side was developed and created by Warner Brothers Montreal, who previously gave us Arkham Origins, a prequel game in the Arkham Universe where Batman first meets the Joker, and it's actually not a bad game. Anyways, Gotham Knight takes place completely outside of the Arkham Universe where Batman has died and the Bat family has to keep control of Gotham without Batman, which, if you ask me, is a pretty good story premise. But then we have to face off against Batman's rogues gallery, who are starting to notice they've not seen Batman in some time.
Where is he? He's never been this late before.
But after the fantastic Arkham games and not having an entry in the franchise for 9 years, Warner Brothers Games have given us two games. One set in the Rocksteady Arkham universe and one set in its own universe, but it is heavily inspired by the Arkham games. But which one is better?
I don't know.
Both Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights are games with overall pretty good concepts for its story. One having to, kill the Justice League under the control of one of the most powerful DC villains with Brainiac, where the other is about controlling the chaos that is Gotham City without Batman. But which one does it better? Starting off with Suicide Squad, well, we do what it says in the title and we have to kill the Justice League. And if you've seen my 5 things Suicide Squad gets wrong video, then you'll know my thoughts on killing the League and how they came to that conclusion, how it's a bit weak.
Oh, no offense.
Now, if you've seen the trailers, you might already know, but Wonder Woman uses the lasso of truth on the Flash, who confirms that we have to kill the League.
Fire's his one weakness. Yeah, fire's everyone's weakness. It's f***ing fire.
From this, we do some fetch quests for gadgets, letting us face off against certain members of the League, but as we keep playing, the story starts to slowly and more frequently insult the fans of the series and, of course, fans of the comic books.
It doesn't take much, does it?
Suicide Squad also makes light of some pretty serious situations where we're having to, yes, kill the League, but the squad is actively making fun of beloved characters too, and it's not an easy watch. However, the first 2 to 5 hours of the game where we're introduced to the squad, arrive in Metropolis and find out that the Justice League has been altered by Brainiac is actually kinda cool, and I gotta say the first time we see evil Batman, it hits pretty hard. But as we progress in the game, it gets more cringy and some scenes are only really saved from the comedy between Captain Boomerang and King Shark.
Oh, you shouldn't have done that, Shark. That's Superman. He'll kick your ass.
Now, that's not to say the story or overall premise of the game is bad. No, it's pretty ballsy to have a story about killing the Justice League, especially after Rocksteady spent 9 years between Arkham Knight and Suicide Squad. It wasn't gonna be easy. The overall story shows us how Batman has returned after his apparent death at the end of Arkham Knight, and now how he is a member of the Justice League. Why Superman or anyone outside of the Bat family weren't around during the events of Arkham Knight. It gives us a video game Arkhamverse version of the Justice League, where the Flash is funny, Wonder Woman is inspiring, and Superman is the lovable Boy Scout. I mean, sure, you only get this in the holograms at the Hall of Justice or with some audio tapes, but still, it's pretty good. Where Suicide Squad does fall though is in its pacing and how we actually kill the League. Now, Gotham Knights is set completely outside of the Arkham Universe, and it's a bit cheeky with that. You see, Gotham Knights is all based around Bruce Wayne Batman actually dying and the Bat family having to live in a world without him.
Help me! Get me out of here!
And Arkham Knight, a game set in a different universe, ended with Batman dying and the Bat family were in Arkham Knight. So naturally people thought that this was in the Arkham universe when it's not. But as Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing and Red Hood, you investigate how Batman died, who did it, as well as trying to keep the peace in Gotham, a Gotham that has very active members of Batman's rogue gallery doing their thing in Gotham, and they've started to notice that they've not seen Batman in some time. There are some weird story elements in the game though. While we've got multiple members of the rogues gallery that we need to take down, one of which is Harley Quinn. And yet this game tiptoes around references, mentions, or really anything relating to the Joker, and it's a bit weird. Like, there are at least 3 characters in this game that have a connection to the Joker, like Red Hood has been killed by the Joker, Batgirl has been paralysed by the Joker, and well, we've got Harley Quinn, come on. But yeah, they do make some Easter eggs and some references to him, like a giant Joker card in the Batcave at the start of the game, but the writing and the story also seems to try really hard to not overly mention him. However, Gotham Knights has multiple villains and a few different storylines that all generally link back to the main story of who killed Batman or keeping the peace in Gotham. Now, we the audience know how Batman died, but there's more of an underground plot with the Court of Owls, and while it's a bit obvious, yeah, it is entertaining. However, without going into spoilers, the last handful of cutscenes in the game do feel kinda cheap. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it did actually leave a bit of a sour taste in my mouth once the credits started rolling, but it does actually have an ending to its story and game.
Then everything is wrapped up in a neat little package.
But Suicide Squad, well, it doesn't. It actually doesn't have an ending, and it's more so a to be continued. And after 10 to 12 hours of facing off against the League and taking on Brainiac to basically say, come back after we've released the next DLC, is a bit poor if you ask me. Honestly, this one isn't a hard decision in my opinion. Suicide Squad is a looter shooter where each character traverses the world and plays differently. King Shark is your tank, Deadshot is your long range distance, Boomerang is the rapid in and out of combat, and Harley Quinn's just your overall general DPS, and it is a 4-player co-op game. While Suicide Squad is set within the Arkham Universe, it isn't trying to be an Arkham game, if that makes sense. You're not playing as Harley Quinn or Captain Boomerang trying to be Batman and doing Predator gameplay moments. It is a open world, over-the-top looter shooter, a bit like say Sunset Overdrive. You'll find new weapons and mods to equip, with weapons having certain abilities and buffs like setting your enemies on fire or freezing them, or inflicting some kind of elemental style of damage, as well as a leveling up system and skill tree. Each character has their own completely unique traversal modes and weapons, and when I found a character I gelled with, I stuck with them. Harley uses Batman's grappling gun and a drone to swing around the city, King Shark is basically the Hulk and can jump around, Deadshot has a jetpack, and Captain Boomerang has a Speed Force short-range teleport. Now, I loved Boomerang's traversal, gameplay style, ultimate ability, and weapons, and it kinda worked for me. Gotham Knights, on the other hand, isn't set within the Arkham universe, and it's set in its own separate universe, yet the gameplay is a bit of a rip-off of the Arkham style, with RPG and some looter shooter-esque elements to it. Now, you'll have weapons to swap out, their skill trees and gear changes which will actually change what your character looks like, and the option to craft weapons and mods for weapons as well. It's not overly a bad system, but these RPG mechanics feel out of place for a game that uses the Arkham style of gameplay. The combat is the same as Arkham, but it's not as polished. We've got one attack button, one dodge button, and then there's a ranged attack, and that's really it. To do a heavy attack, you just need to hold down the melee button, and there's no counter like there is in the Arkham games, instead it's just dodge. So there's no stun, and if you need to stun an enemy, say an enemy with a shield, you just hit them with a heavy attack which will stun them for a moment. Predator style gameplay is the same as the Arkham, but again, it's not as polished. There's no detective vision or swappable gadgets to change the flow of combat, or to get enemies to freak out and walk through a trap. It's just sneak up behind them, take them out, rinse and repeat. What Gotham Knights gets better though is its boss fights. The lead up to the Mr. Freeze boss fight is pretty damn cool, and while yeah, facing off against him sometimes feels like a Crash Bandicoot boss fight, it is handled better than how Suicide Squad handles it.
You're damn right it did. I mean, really?
Traversal for characters though in Gotham Knights is rough though. Each character has a specialized way of getting around the city, and they progressively get a bit more rougher as they go. For example, Batgirl has a cape so she can glide around the city like Batman could in the Arkham games, but the gliding is stiffer than Kramer in jeans.
Let me just think for a second here. You better get me.
Robin can use the Justice League Watchtower to do a short-range teleport, which actually sounds kinda good on paper, but when you activate this, it sort of stops the flow of traversal and feels a little awkward. Nightwing uses a Fortnite glider that actually makes you fly. Yet not slowly falling like a glider does, but you can actually fly with it. And the kicker is that in this game you do get a larger version of this glider, and it's used as a quick travel option to get around the city. And why not actually just give this as our vehicle the flying jetpack rather than this glider? The funniest of all is Red Hood, the giant walking tank of a character with 2 pistols on his hips. How would you expect a character like this to traverse the city? Now, if your answer was using a magic jump ability where he just frog jumps around the city, well then yeah, you'd be right. And yes, it's as stupid as it looks, and it's a shame too because Red Hood isn't a bad character to play as. Outside of these unique traversal abilities, each character can call and summon the Bat Cycle, which moves incredibly slow yet gives you the feeling of moving fast around the map. Like hell, I deliberately move slow on the bike and you can see the brake lights on the back streaking out, and I'm moving maybe 5 or 10 kilometers an hour. They honestly needed to increase the speed of this bike by at least say 30% and make it dangerous to use because, well, it's a bike. If we hit something going at high speed, you're coming off of it. But Suicide Squad actually feels like a different game. Like, yeah, sure, it is set in the Arkham universe, but it's not trying to be an Arkham game, if that makes sense. It's its own game. Each character feels unique and has a playstyle. Gotham Knights, though, is heavily inspired by the Arkham Trilogy, and it doesn't step away from its inspiration to be its own title. The only character who feels a little different is Red Hood. Robin, Batgirl, and Nightwing generally feel the same as Batman in the Arkham games. Like, yeah, maybe sure, Nightwing feels a little faster, but Red Hood can completely mow down enemies by simply sitting back and shooting at them, and it kind of feels like Red Hood would have been a better character to use in Suicide Squad rather than Gotham Knights, seeing as his main combat style is either shooting enemies with his weapons or pistol whipping them. We just need to find a new way for him to traverse the city. But I've not played Gotham Knights since it originally released, so I went back to try it out again for this video, and the traversals had me bored, the combat was kinda and the stealth mechanics weren't bad, sure, but I had to fully immerse myself into the environment or the situation of the missions to actually get involved. The worlds in both Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights are literally night and day differences. Well, besides the fact that Gotham Knights can only be played during the nighttime, but Gotham Knights is a huge city with multiple landmarks like Arkham Asylum, Blackgate Prison, Star Labs, the Iceberg Lounge, all of these famous landmarks that the devs have added into the world, but I had no desire to explore the city like at all.
I'd go myself, but I can't be fucked.
Metropolis in Suicide Squad is smaller in size compared to Gotham Knights' Gotham City, and it's only an area or an island, and it's under attack by Brainiac. But there is so much going on in the city. Yes, there's references to Superman and the Justice League, but the world feels more alive than Gotham in Gotham Knights, which is a bit weird, seeing as Metropolis is under siege from Brainiac and Gotham has nothing affecting the citizens of the city. Previous Arkham games had a portion of the city closed off or turned into a prison, Scarecrow taking the city hostage, causing citizens to flee in terror, and we got a similar aspect in Suicide Squad in Metropolis, but there's always something going on in the city. In Arkham Knight, we had thugs trying to break into stores and beating the crap out of each other, stealing cars and cops chasing them down. Suicide Squad has Brainiac dropping in his army and reinforcements all over the city, and drones picking up remaining citizens to turn them into slaves for Brainiac. Just stopping in the middle of gameplay and just taking in the environment, I feel like is something Rocksteady has really nailed with the Arkham games, and they sort of get this right too with Suicide Squad. Gotham Knights, though, has nothing.
Nothing? Nothing. What does that mean?
There are citizens walking around the city, driving cars at night, all of which that have blacked out windows, but after a few minutes you just get bored with the city. Sure, there are some great areas like going into Blackgate when you first look for Harley Quinn or the Monarch Theatre, but they're more so linear levels rather than an open world. It is cool that you can see police lights in the distance, which can be actual crimes that you can prevent, which was a nice touch. And I do like that the devs made a point of having the world of Gotham always have some form of crime going on somewhere, but the world just feels dead, and the traversal doesn't help with this either. Something a bit more subjective on what looks better. Both games have somewhat realistic graphical stylings to it. And yeah, one might have better graphics because it is the newer game, but if you look at Arkham Knight, a 9-year-old game, that still has better graphics than both of these games.
That I love. I absolutely love.
Now, while yeah, I can see which title has better graphics just from looking at the world, the character models, obviously Suicide Squad wins hands down.
Come on, kids. Let's go home.
We are home.
That was fast.
But I think credit where credit is due. I'm playing Gotham Knights on full graphics with ray tracing, and while it's not the greatest, or as good as say Arkham Knight, some characters' outfits and environments are actually pretty damn impressive, and the rain aspect is pretty rad. Now, 90% of the time when playing Gotham Knights, it will be raining, and no matter what outfit your character is wearing, you'll see the rain roll down their suits and their hair won't get wet, which is a bit weird, but it's actually kind of cool to see that sort of interactiveness on their outfits. But the Green Lantern constructs, the character designs, the visual effects, not the on-screen effects, but the graphics of Suicide Squad is actually pretty damn impressive here. Oh boy, I'm avoiding spoilers here, but one game deals with the death of Batman and how the Bat family copes and lives in a Gotham without Batman, and that premise alone is pretty good, where the other is the Suicide Squad killing the Justice League, and it does this in a pretty unique way.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
But both games handle their characters differently. Gotham Knights show how each member of the Bat family deals and grieves with Batman being dead, and the game doesn't try to hide this. This Batman 2 isn't missing, we see him die and the Bat family find his body, so there's no MacGuffin of Batman faked his own death.
My God! This man's not dead!
There are some great moments here too where the Bat family are trying to remember some great times they had with Bruce, and when they ask if Jason remembers this particular memory, he doesn't because he was dead at the time, and it's got some pretty raw moments to it as well. It's also a really cool concept seeing how not only the heroes but to some extent the villains react to Batman being dead. Penguin refuses to help any member of the Bat family when they try to interrogate him because he's not intimidated by kids. Alfred goes on vacation and comes home to Bruce Wayne being killed. And what's even a cool little notion is that members of the Justice League will email the Bat family offering support and advice, and I kinda wish they were in the game even as a cameo at Bruce's funeral. Now, while we don't see any members of the League, Gotham Knights does give us some pretty interesting takes on its Rogues Gallery characters. Mr. Freeze, one of my favourite comic book villains of all time. I love that he's in this game, but he does look a little bit like a Metal Gear character. Harley Quinn has already done some work with the Suicide Squad, which is given to us from a quick throwaway line in the game, and she has also separated from the Joker, and we don't even see that in the game as well, but her character becomes her own as Dr. Q, but she's still Harley Quinn. As Gotham Knights as well is set outside of the Arkham Universe and set within its own universe, they have free reign to do what they want to do with these interpretations of the characters, and how they created and handled Batman in this title was pretty damn wicked. How they ended it though, a bit eh. Suicide Squad though is a bit of a mess, just like this video, as they're playing in a world that's already had games in it before it, and the writers have sort of forgotten some key moments with characters. For example, Harley Quinn's character arc from the 3 Arkham games is basically gone here in Suicide Squad, and she's just basically a video game version of Margot Robbie's character rather than the Arkham Harley. How they handle the League isn't overly great, nor how they handle characters like, say, Lois Lane, who only appears in news bulletins throughout the city and never actually appears in the game. What they do get right though is the banter and comedy between the squad members, and the voice acting across the board is top notch.
Ah! Do you feel it? The swell of pride for what we have accomplished together.
Oh, I don't know how to feel about respecting you lot, but... Oh, it's choking me up. Shark, you're crushing me.
But I think the winner here has to go to Gotham Knights. Suicide Squad disrespects some of its characters, and not just video game characters, but well-loved childhood comic book characters, where Gotham Knights answers the question of what would happen if Batman died and how would the Bat family cope. And yeah, that's more of a story element rather than a character element, but Gotham Knights handles its characters with respect, and its characters too don't break common comic book knowledge and lore. One is a live service game with DLC, new characters to come that you can play as, and the end of the main story didn't overly end. Instead it basically said wait for the DLC or the next season of the game to launch. The other is a light RPG Arkham style of game with no real reason for you to return to it once you finish the campaign. Problem I have with both of these games is that after you finish the main story, there's no reason to return to it. Suicide Squad will have more DLC coming to it, and a battle pass system, and more skins and such, but right now, at the time of this video, I've booted up the game multiple times and there's nothing new in the store, and the only option is to do side missions that will give you currency for going into alternate universes or getting weapons that I overly don't really care for. Gotham Knights doesn't really have any reason to return to it at all. Once the story ends, and if you've stopped Mr. Freeze, Harley and Clayface, what's the real reason to return to it? They did make a 4-player mode where you go through these floors which consist of different challenges and such, which, yeah, surprisingly is actually a bit of fun, and I did this solo, but I can nearly do the exact same thing in Arkham Knight with, say, the Predator challenges. Like, all of these characters are available to play as in Arkham Knight, and I can, sadly, play Arkham Knight and just pretend to be Batman patrolling the city, where Gotham City in Gotham Knights is actually pretty bland, and Gotham Knights hasn't really had any support, updates, or some story DLC, which could have worked pretty damn well. Or just make the bike faster and make some tweaks here or there. It's sort of a game that's just been released and dropped a bit. Now, looking at the player count on Steam for Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, as of writing this script, Suicide Squad has 100 more players than Gotham Knights, and Suicide Squad is a live service game that dropped a month ago, and that's kinda saying something.
Joke's on you, love. I'm not that old.
Now, while I'm not a fan of Suicide Squad not having a traditional ending to its story, and it's basically saying come back in a couple of months and you'll get more story, just like Avengers did before it, and look how well that ended, I'll probably actually return to Suicide Squad when the Joker DLC releases, to see what they've done with the story and the world and its characters, and to see if this fan theory of the rumoured Justice League returning ends up being true. But well, there we have it. If you ask me what game is better, I think I gotta go with Suicide Squad, and in some instances it was pretty damn close too. I think too, it also really depends on what kind of game you feel like playing, and if you're playing with mates. Suicide Squad is a 4-player co-op game where you can experience the entire story with your mates and have some fun. Where Gotham Knights has 4 characters to play as, yet it is only a 2-player story co-op playthrough, and sadly when playing co-op to this day, you will still experience dropouts. Now, I did some co-op with a mate too for this video, and he hated it when I played as Red Hood, because I could just sit back and shoot everyone with no real skill required at all. I think you should take a look at both of these games if you are a DC fan though, I think that's important. Gotham Knights generally goes for about $20 on Steam when it's on sale, and no doubt Suicide Squad will go on sale at some point too, and there's definitely some fun to be had there. But what about you though, do you prefer Gotham Knights or Suicide Squad? Please let me know down in the comments below. But whether you prefer staying in the city of Gotham or you want to explore the city of tomorrow in Metropolis, always remember to play with each other and play with yourself.